Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Artsbeat TV and radio here on Westville Community Programming Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach, and we're joined this first half hour this morning by some great people at Wham Theater. Talya Kingston, who is on the top left, and Cate Alston. Now, Talya's been on this program many times, and a year ago, I had a chance to sit down and chat with Talya in the studio, and it was the very last live interview we did on Artsbeat before the pandemic introduced us to Zoom. So, Talya, I can't wait for the day when you come back and sit here and we get to talk theater.
Amen. Yeah. Thank you for always having us back, Mark. I appreciate it.
I'm a total fan. And Cate, we've not met before, but Cate Alston is somewhat new to Wham and is an actor based in New York City who's done a lot of work in the Albany Capital Region area. And I believe this is your second round at Wham. You were here for Row. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. I worked with Wham on Row and the Thanksgiving play, and now I am the artistic assistant at Wham Theater.
So we'll start with you, Cate. What attracted you to Wham initially, and what's keeping you at Wham?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. Well, during my junior year of college, one of my professors, Kim Stauffer, told me after a show that her friend Kristen was very impressed with my performance of Stella Dubois. And so this was very exciting for me. And Kim told me to email Kristen, and it was very exciting, but I was also trying to balance two majors. And so I didn't end up emailing Kristen at that time. But fast forward, it's my last semester at the university at Albany, and I'm scrambling trying to figure out how I'm going to make money and pay my loans and do what I love. And my friend Maddie Roland tells me that they're going to this audition for this theater company in the Berkshires. And I had no clue about the Berkshires at the time. But here we are, Maddie and I driving to Lenox while we're rehearsing for another show, trying to make some plans for post-grad. And things were going smoothly, and we both had amazing auditions. But then the pandemic hit and theater was put on pause. And so a couple months passed by and I'm unemployed and sending random self-tapes into auditions. And Kristen emailed me and basically said, hey, we're still planning on producing Row and we'd like you to play Roxy and assistant direct. And I was like, thank God, theater work. And so, I worked with Wham for Row and the Thanksgiving play, and those processes ended and I was really sad, but then Kristen offered me the artistic position, the artistic assistant position, and I was very happy. And so that's kind of how I was introduced to Wham and what attracted me to Wham. But what's keeping me at Wham is the activism and accountability work that we do by creating opportunities for women and girls. And we do that by taking a portion of the proceeds we receive through ticket sales and donate that money to organizations that uplift women and girls, which ultimately uplifts everyone. And so I never thought that I could be doing what I love and also being an activist at the same time. So, yeah.
It's such a great opportunity. And one of the things that I've noticed in Wham, and it's been around for over 10 years, was founded on the idea of making the world a better place and taking this donation, making a donation from the ticket revenues to nonprofits that provided services to women and girls, which is a very unique model. It doesn't really exist in any other theater on an ongoing year-round basis. So I've got to say that first of all, the model of Wham impresses me. But the other thing that as an arts reporter and a theater goer impresses me as well, it's not just theater for women and girls, it's theater for everyone. And certainly I think the last programs that I was able to see were the Thanksgiving play and Row, which had an impact and a meaning far beyond what was being put on the stage. It was the kind of play that you watched, you enjoyed it as theater, they were entertaining, and then you walked away afterwards, you go, wow, what did I just see and what does it mean?
Mm.
Talya, you've been at Wham for quite a long time, and did both of those productions last year, and you've got a new production just about to open. So it's actually production number 2 of the current Wham season. So give us a little overview.
Yeah, it's part of our Fresh Takes play reading series, which usually happens live. Obviously, like all theatre, usually happens live. And it's a fast and furious process where the actors get to. We hire incredible actors always, and Cate's no exception. But we have we hire these actors and we grapple with the script for a couple of days, and then we read it live for an audience, so the audience gets into the process and gets to be inside the script with us. But this year, obviously, we are doing it digitally. So we just came off of a production of Letters to Carmela by Rachel Lynette, which was very successful. And again, we had a phenomenal company working on that. And then we're about to go into a reading of this incredible play called The Light by Loy A. Webb, who, and I read it and it was so well constructed. And then I started looking up this playwright because that's my drive. I love working with new work and with playwrights, and she's a playwright I hadn't heard of. And came to realize that it's her first play, which is remarkable given how well it's constructed and how fluidly the dialogue moves. It really feels like it's not at all a didactic play. It really feels like you're diving into a drama and getting to see two people's lives. And the cool thing about this play, seeing as we're all getting a little sick of the play readings on Zoom when we're all trapped in these little boxes, is that it's about a couple in their house, and we've hired a real life couple, so we'll get to actually see them moving around a little bit because they're actually in the same space, which you wouldn't think is revolutionary for theatre, but in these times, I think it will be really refreshing for people to just be able to wholeheartedly delve into a drama and get to experience it in a real space.
Yeah, and when does the production run?
It starts on April 25th and it goes through May 2nd, and it's streaming, so you can watch it at any time during that week. You can start it and stop it, although I'm going to bet that you're not going to start it and stop it because, like I say, it's very much a roller coaster. Like once you're on it, you're going to want to see it through. It's about 70 minutes long. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think streaming to me has its pros and its cons. First of all, it's very convenient. You get to sit in your living room. You get your snacks are put out, and all of that. And I would assume that you're drawing an audience out of the geographical area, because one of the things I've been doing this year is watching plays and musicals that are being streamed from theaters all over the country and getting an idea of what talent is out there, what artistic visions are out there. The con is that when you're sitting in an easy chair watching a play, it's very easy to put it on pause and get up and go get something to eat, or somebody calls and you take the call and all of that. And maintaining your concentration during a stream is very, very difficult.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. I'm also watching theatre from all over the country, all over the world, like you. And what a great benefit! We also are able to hire acting talent and direct. We have a director, Colette Roberts, who's going to be directing from LA, and she can do that because we're doing it all digitally, with a couple of actors who are in Boston, and our stage management team, which is in the Berkshires. And so there's that can happen. But yes, we're a little too comfortable, and streaming, it feels like it can, we get it's too easy to pause it. But I think that's our job. Our job is to make it compelling enough that you don't want to pause it. And I think that this play, I don't know, I'm thinking this play is going to stop you from answering that call, Mark.
Well, Talya, you direct. So you get one perspective of this whole streaming thing. Cate, you act. What's it like acting in a performance that's being streamed where you're not in the same room with the other actors?
Yes. So it is very interesting. During Row, my character came in at the very end of the play, and I sort of had to, it was basically like a monologue, and I'm connecting with the audience and these other two wonderful actors. Um, but it's really about building connection. And I think one would think that it's difficult to do that over an online platform, but it's so wonderfully easy once you're really in the rehearsal process and once you're getting to know each other, right? Because even though we're behind a screen, it's like we're still human, we're still connecting, there's still empathy, and we're still connecting over the work that we're doing. And so it's a little weird sometimes because, we're trying to hand each other props, through the screen and other stuff like that. But I think that's what theater is about, really, the suspension of disbelief and yeah.
I mean, I can't even begin to conceive of what it's like to do a performance in a rehearsal through Zoom. It's been very difficult for me to do interviewing through Zoom, but in many cases, I know the person because I've interviewed them before. And when I know them, it's a very easy conversation. Like I know Talya very well because she's been on this program many times. So chatting on screen is not much different at this point, but like you and I have just met. So, it has its challenges. Let's put it that way. So I would assume that rehearsing and putting together a production that's going to be streamed is very tough.
Mm.
What are the other programs that Wham has planned for this year?
So we are moving from these play readings to a full production in the fall. We have our fingers crossed. We're working with all the Massachusetts state COVID guidelines and the union guidelines and spaces. But we're hoping to have a production of the US premiere, actually, of Kamloopa by Kim Senlick Harvey, who is an Indigenous playwright from Canada. It's an incredible play, very joyful play about a road trip that two Indigenous sisters take to a powwow and their sort of realization of their identities and their multiple identities. And we are very excited about producing it live, but also thinking, because we've got this incredible new audience, as you mentioned, Mark, across the country and actually across the world. So we're thinking of a hybrid kind of quality, even if we are able to perform it live, that there'll also be some kind of digital component so that people can watch it across the country. And for this play in particular, that we can stream it to reservations, because there's a lot of young Native American students and young people who are hungry for visions of themselves on stage, of their own identities on stage. So that's what we're hoping for, and that's what we're working towards. We're also going to have a summer, early summer production that we're not quite ready to announce yet. So stay tuned for that.
Okay. I know that, Talya, in your role, you read tons and tons of scripts, and so does Kristen. People must submit stuff to you all the time. How many good scripts, let's say you get 100 scripts, how many of them are really worth taking a second glance at?
Oh my goodness, what a hard question. I think they're all, I mean, I'm also a writer, so I try and give every single script its due diligence. We're looking for good work. We're not looking to dismiss work. It helps that we have a company with a very tight mission. We only produce plays by women. We produce plays that have a sense of social change or activism within them, some kind of momentum within them, that center female characters, and that give us a sense of hope. They may take us through a traumatic situation, but they should leave us with a sense of hope. So we're looking for very specific scripts, and in that way, I'm able to have a conversation with playwrights and say, this is a great play. It's not necessarily for us, or it's not necessarily for us at this time. And I'm also plugged into a lot of different other development opportunities. So hopefully I'm able to also pass those on. But it's hard to find plays that both fit for Wham, fit for this time, particularly this time, this year, which is a shifting landscape politically, health-wise, with the racial uprisings. It was a sort of a whirlwind. So to try and find a play that would fit our mission and our audiences for this time and actually contribute to the conversations, that's quite hard. So it's not necessarily that some plays are good and some plays are bad, although we know that's true. But it's more that some plays fit better for the time and the place than others.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a very unusual year, and our perspectives and everything from being in isolation that most of us have lived, but also the turmoil, not only in the government, but in the shootings and all the other things that are going on that are constantly forcing us to reevaluate. A play that you might have thought about 2 years ago to present this year might no longer really be relevant for its time. And stuff that you're looking at now that you can't produce this year for one reason or another might be irrelevant 2 years from now. I mean, it's just, we're really living in a state of flux. Cate, when you do you get a chance to, in your role at Wham, to look at new scripts?
I haven't yet, but I have been exposed to new scripts. All the shows that we're producing this year, I've never read them before. And so it's been really great being exposed to those new playwrights and new works. But I think as time goes on, I'm going to, definitely seek out some new pieces. Talya is always saying, if you have any new scripts, any scripts of interest, toss them my way. And so, yeah, being in this position just allows me to discover.
Now, you're in the scheme of things, you're a young actor, just coming out of the university situation and going it professional. But you've had the opportunity to do new plays as well as some classics. I understand you've done Shakespeare, and you mentioned Tennessee Williams. At this point in time, if somebody said, Cate, you can do any play you want here, are you driven towards the new works, or are you still exploring the classics?
Definitely driven toward new works. I love the classics. I do love Shakespeare so much. It's always so much fun to reconstruct old work. But I feel like while we can rely on that, I think we also need to take a risk and discover new playwrights, right? And I think that is really the direction, because when, in Shakespeare's day, Shakespeare was a new playwright when it was his time, and so we need to continue to discover new playwrights. So if given the choice, I would definitely perform something new.
Great. We're going to take a quick break to acknowledge the underwriters that make Artsbeat possible. We're talking with the great people from Wham Theater. WhamTheater.com is the place to find out all about their Fresh Take reading series and their other productions for this year. We're with Talya Kingston and Cate Alston. We will be back after these messages.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
Join me, Tina Gorman, each week from 6 to 8 a.m. for Wake Up Wednesday, when my guests and I discuss health, wellness, and lifestyle reimagined.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to Artsbeat, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. If you've missed a part of today's program or you want to go back and see it or hear it again, it's archived on YouTube at WSKB Community Radio's YouTube page. We also have all of the back episodes of Artsbeat archived. So if you want to see Talya, Kingston, and me talking a year ago live in the studio, you'll find it there. Talya's back again today along with Cate Alston, and we're talking about Wham Theater's 2021 season happening right here in Western Massachusetts, with a not only hopefully live performances later on in the year, but right now some streamed performances under their Fresh Takes play reading series, where new works are developed and presented through the online, so you can watch them in the comfort of your home. And I would assume, based on previous seasons, that Wham has developed a new audience of people that are not in Western Massachusetts. Do you know where they're coming from, Talya?
All over the place. I mean, honestly, it often depends on the subject of the play, the people involved in the play who tell their families about it. I remember when we did the Thanksgiving play, I remember somebody in the company saying, "We've got new people watching us in England." I'm like, "It's my family." So there are some that are being drawn in because my family haven't been able to see my work. I've been working in America for 2 decades, and they just haven't been able to come. So all of a sudden we have. In our last play, we had a brilliant local actress called Shannon Lamb, who is from Arkansas, and her family and her community were all able to come and see the show. And so all of a sudden we have this fan base in Arkansas that we didn't have before. So I think word is spreading that way, and also through our partnerships with other arts organizations. We're realizing now that we have like-minded organizations across the country, across the world, and we can feed off of each other's work.
Yeah. Cate, where are you from originally?
I am originally from Staten Island, New York, and I'm currently based in Albany.
Okay, so Western Massachusetts is a whole new game for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What do you think of the area and the cultural resources here?
I have only been to Western Massachusetts once, and the one time that I've been there, I think that it was wonderful. It's a beautiful, scenic area, and so yeah, I liked it.
What interested you in theater in the first place, Cate? What drew you to it, and why did you decide to pursue it?
Yeah, my family actually, we've always been very creative and artistic. My mom plays guitar, and my 3 siblings all play musical instruments. I did not get the instrument bug, and so I turned to theater and musical theater, and I began acting in middle school. Actually, I went to a magnet school that had majors, and so I decided to be a drama major and try my hand at acting, and I was not great, but I had a very supportive community, supportive family, supportive teachers, and so I've trained and I've gotten much better. But I think that's what attracted me to theater, just my family and being inspired by the connections it builds.
And now that you're at Wham and you're doing more than acting and you're involved on the other side, in direction and management and all of the things that go into making a play, do you see your future as an actor? Do you see your future as an administrator? Or do you see it as a combination of both?
I definitely see it as a combination of both. Wham has exposed me to so many different positions. And so prior to working here, I had only considered acting. I only wanted to be an actor. But now, because of Wham, I'm considering being a director and opening my own theater company in the future, and really stepping into a whole bunch of different leadership positions, because I am a multifaceted artist and I don't have to keep myself in one box.
Yeah, it's multifaceted is very important. If you put yourself in a box, you don't grow. It's that simple. Talya, you've been at theater for a long time. How has working with Wham changed your perspectives?
I feel like Wham was a culmination of all my work. I mean, it felt like a really good fit for me. I had I had worked in professional regional theatre, mostly in educational theatre though, and then I came to Wham after a decade of working in academic theatre, and I was hungry to continue the social activism that was being fed to me from my students as a professor, but also to get the excitement of professional theatre, the colleagues, the inspiration to write my own things. And Wham is a really great size. It's growing, and that's very exciting, but it's still small and nimble enough that we can suggest things and we can move with the times, and we're not wedded to performing in one particular space in one particular way. And so it becomes a very exciting place just day to day in our conversations, in our collaborations. It's been a very good match.
Well, it's been great having you both here today. I always enjoy and anticipate having the folks from Wham on, and you guys are all regulars on Artsbeat, and I hope you'll come back again before one of the productions later on in the season. For people that want to find out more about what Wham's doing, how can they learn more about Wham and its programs?
So the best thing is to look on our website, which, as Mark mentioned, is Wham Theatre spelt with an RE.com. Our upcoming show is The Light by Loy A. Webb, that's starting on April 25th. Highly recommended, and it's a brilliant cast as well. But you can see on our website, you'll be able to get a sense of our programming in its entirety and our productions that are coming up later on in the year.
Terrific. Talya Kingston and Cate Alston from Wham Theatre in the Berkshires, one of our great cultural gems that we're lucky enough to have. Thanks for joining us. We're going to take another break to acknowledge our underwriters. You are either watching Artsbeat on Westfield Community Programming Channel 15 or listening at 89.5 FM WSKB, or maybe you're streaming it on YouTube. But don't go away. We'll be right back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com. Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer, and you are either watching Artsbeat on Westfield Community Programming Channel 15 or listening on 89.5 FM WSKB. Our guest for this half hour is Allyn Burrows, the artistic director at Shakespeare and Company. And Shakespeare and Company is kind of emerging from the pandemic with an announcement not too long ago about the construction of a new outdoor theater and some other good news. Good morning, Allyn. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Now that spring is sort of here, what are some of the good news you can share about Shakespeare and Company up and coming?
Well, we're excited to announce that we're going to have a season this year, and it's going to take various forms, from building a new outdoor theater called the New Spruce Theater. That is a placeholder of a name. If anyone wants to come in big and name it after themselves, we'd be open to that notion. And we're also going to have our old theater in the Roman Garden Theater will be up and running, and we have streaming and digital content that will also be available. But our mainstay and our main stage will be the production of King Lear that we're going to be doing out on this new space. If for your visual listeners, I can share the screen and give you some visuals if you want it on the new space. If you want.
That would be great, but most of our listeners are radio, so I'm not sure. But I know that if they go to your website, you can see some beautiful drawings of it.
That's right. Yeah. It's a new 543-seat theater. We tore down a bunch of old derelict buildings to make it happen. It's something I've been talking about for a few years now, but it's coming to fruition in a very fortuitous time. Performing in front of these spruce trees reflects where we were over at the Mount, in front of the pine trees over at the Edith Wharton Estate. And while we have been performing outdoors here in the Roman Garden Theater for the last few years, this is going to be a pastoral setting, and in non-COVID times can, of course, accommodate a lot more people. We will be social distancing per state regulations because we are limited to 50% capacity right now. But Christopher Lloyd is really excited about coming back and taking on King Lear. And we've all had another year to think about the play. And if you know King Lear, there's never too much time to contemplate that piece of work.
Exactly. How did Shakespeare and Company survive the pandemic? Did you have to lay off people? I know you canceled the 2020 season. Was it really difficult? Did you have donors that came to the rescue? What's your pandemic story?
We were enormously fortunate and grateful to our donors and our stakeholders, and really the amount of people who came forward to support us. We did go on furlough for the summer, having postponed the season till 2021. We made that decision relatively early, and it turned out to have been the right one. I did open a drive-in movie theater on the property in collaboration with the Berkshire International Film Festival. And that was a lot of fun because we were able to show a lot of independent films. People were able to come to the property and still enjoy it. And we had a lot of online programming as well that ran throughout the summer. We did end up having an outdoor fundraiser in the fall, A Touch of Summer, where we celebrated the different arts offerings that are normally on the boards in the Berkshires, dance and music and of course text and Shakespeare.
Yeah.
So
there was an initiative brought up to that became public that Shakespeare and Company wanted to develop your campus in Lenox with new initiatives and projects. One of the things that we've been made aware of is that in conjunction with Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative, the idea of putting a film studio called the Kemble Street Studios together. What are some of the other initiatives that you guys are considering to utilize the campus as best possible?
Well, one of the extraordinary things about the pandemic is that the conversations around partnerships on the property didn't really slow down. You would have thought that they would have gone into hibernation like so many of us had to by necessity. But the conversations continued. You're right about the Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative. They, those conversations have been a lot of fun. It's really in early stages, but they've been very active, and we look forward to reigniting those. And we still have more space to develop, even though we've torn down some old buildings and have built our own theater. We still have other spaces, and it's too early to divulge too much about what the conversations have been, but they've been exciting, and we've brought people onto the property who see what we're about and see how their operations could really dovetail in a creative way with what we do, so that it could be a very vibrant community. And of course, with the pandemic, we realized what a destination the Berkshires truly is, and we'd want to be able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, one of the things that other guests have told us that are Berkshire, either theater or restaurant or tourism related, is that the arts organizations and the creative economy contribute so much to the overall economy of the Berkshires, and the Berkshires took a huge hit with the pandemic. Do you see signs of emergence at this point where things are starting to reopen overall?
Absolutely. I mean, there have been restaurants that have stayed open throughout, and people are really starting to come out of the woods, if you will, out of hibernation. It just speaks to the intrepid spirit of this area, where people hunkered down, people were, played it safe, they were very responsible, and now there is a little bit of shell shock when you come out, and you're conditioned to be that safe, and then you suddenly find yourself in proximity with people, and we want to continue with a heavy dose of caution, because of course, the numbers are they're tenaciously high, and so we want to continue to be safe, and we'll put that at the forefront with our COVID code of conduct, courtesy code of conduct, how we do things on the property. So
two of the other theater companies in the area, Barrington Stage and Berkshire Theater Group, had worked very closely with the health officials as well as Actors Equity to get performances going last summer. What kind of restrictions are you facing right now in terms of both what the health department says and what Actors Equity will allow you to do?
Well, right now, and we're hoping that there'll be some movement on this, but the actors really can't get any closer than 6 feet to each other. And every little action that takes place in the play has to go down onto a health and safety application that goes into Actors Equity. So if a letter is being passed, or a sword is being handed off, all those things that you normally work out in rehearsal have to be really kind of delineated in advance. It's a big job for the director, and our general manager has been very careful about dotting all the I's and crossing the T's. And so, we actually pulled Much Ado About Nothing, which was on the schedule, off the calendar because, of course, things like Beatrice and Benedict kissing at the end of a romantic comedy just in present conditions wouldn't be attainable. Whereas a tragedy, you can figure out how to, do those type of actions, how you stab people from a further distance. That you can figure out. But so we will be running King Lear all summer until Labor Day.
So that puts restrictions on you as a director in terms of what you could stage. You couldn't do anything with music because I understand you have to be farther apart if there's music and things like that.
That's correct. You have to be 10 feet from the audience right now as the restrictions stand. We're hoping that people get vaccinated at an increased rate. We're encouraging everyone to do that because that right now it's a rate. We thought it would be from some time ago that it would be a race between the vaccine and the pandemic. But the beauty of Shakespeare and other pieces of work that we are about to announce is they rely heavily on language and the beauty of poetry. and those stories and that are told about human relationships, and those will hold up, and especially in this new space. So it's really about an emergence that we're celebrating, and people coming back together, even in a limited, cautious form.
Some people may be of the erroneous idea that Shakespeare and Company only does Shakespeare, but you've also had a robust schedule of recent plays and new plays that cover a variety of subjects that are way beyond Shakespeare. You're going to bring back King Lear. What about the rest of the 2020 season that got canceled? Many theaters are saying, well, we're going to take some of the past and move it forward. Did you go back to the drawing boards for 2021 with the idea that you're going to have all these restrictions in place? And are you coming up with something new?
We did go back to the drawing board. And, we like to say that we do things in reflection of current events. And it's 1 year later. So some shows that really may have resonated a year ago, especially in an election year, we had Lifespan of a Fact on the docket. That was when people were really talking a lot about truth telling in a public forum. And now, since the murder of George Floyd, we are in an entirely different arena, and we have to be mindful of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility when we choose our programming. And so we reconfigured our thinking, and that's what we do every year. So naturally, with the calendar flipping over another year, we did just that, and we're in the process of letting all those pins drop on what those titles are going to be. But we know, and we have to be mindful of the fact that it's going to be kind of an awkward experience for people to come out into a public setting. And so, people are going to be challenged anyway, and we want to make sure that when they arrive here that it's a very welcoming experience.
Where did you end up sheltering in place during the pandemic?
I was right here.
So you were in the Berkshires.
Yeah, I was on furlough myself, of course, because we all went on furlough. But I felt very fortunate to have a lot of space and air around me, and out here in the Berkshires. So,
did you find that moving around the Berkshires this last year with all the tourists gone made the Berkshires a different place?
It did. If you could notice how nature kind of took over in its quiet way, but the Berkshires has always been able to accommodate however many folks come to visit. But it was. I have to say that the Berkshires missed the people. I'm here to report as being the person on the ground. There was a certain melancholy in the air. The trees were kind of missing all the attention that people coming from urban areas were able to provide.
I went to the Berkshires twice in the last year. Once to sit outdoors in 20-degree weather to watch a play at Berkshire Theater Group outside. And I realized, well, if I'd gone to a Patriots game, I would have been bundled up like this at Gillette Stadium. But the idea that I was seeing Tennessee Williams bundled up with a breeze that was just a killer in 20-degree weather made me realize how much I missed going to the theater. But last weekend, a friend and I went to meet another friend in the Berkshires, and we decided to meet for lunch in Lee. We could park just about wherever we wanted to park. There were no lines in the restaurant. And as a Western Massachusetts person, it was fun to sort of have the Berkshires all to yourself, which was kind of... did you find that streaming events through Shakespeare and Company brought you audiences that had no concept of what Shakespeare and Company was?
Absolutely. We were able to stream all over the world. It's not something we're going to let go of that easily. I don't think we will. It'll be part of our programming going forward because we were able to do our training. We were able to do our shows. We were able to do a virtual online fundraiser, and people really came out for it. For a lot of our online programming, we did it by donation, and we felt that the support that people showed us was incredibly heartwarming in that way and robust. A lot of first-time smaller donors, chipped in and really recognized and acknowledged how important culture is not only in the Berkshires, but everywhere. And so we found that incredibly gratifying, really thankful for all the way people showed up.
Yeah. What was from a personal level? What was the one thing as things are lifting and restrictions are lifting, as people are getting vaccinated? What's the one thing that you miss the most that you can't wait to do?
I think go to restaurants, and just have that sense of community. Being around people, even people you don't know, and all, you're all kind of quietly breaking bread together. You may not know them, but you're all eating the same food cooked by the same people. And I think we realize, with 100,000 restaurants closing across the country during the year, it's just brutal to that industry. And we want to reach out and, if people get a chance, even take out or sitting in a restaurant, please do take advantage of it, because they are absolutely symbiotic with the theater experience as well. Going to restaurants, have a bite, see a show, have a bite.
Yeah. Do you think that all the streaming that's been made available from theaters all over the world that people have had access to and learn about through Facebook and social media and then have gone to experience, do you think that when restrictions are lifted, there'll be a new audience clamoring for live theater?
I hope so. I really do. I think that the power of storytelling and the narrative that comes from the heart is really going to be eternal. People have often talked about the demise of theater as an art form. And I think what we've learned from this pandemic is that there's a lot more to what theater has to offer than that people have really realized in the past. And that comes from how much people miss it.
Yeah. How long do you think it'll take as theaters go back to work before plays or musicals about the experience of sheltering in place and the pandemic come to the stage? I know that when the AIDS epidemic was at its height in the early 1980s, it took maybe 4 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden there were plays like The Normal Heart or As Is that came to the forefront and center stage. Do you think that there will be material about people's responses to the pandemic that'll hit the stage, and how long do you think it'll take?
I don't know what the timeline on that is, but there are some truly indelible stories about people's courage, about people's loss, about people's sense of humor, about people's vision, about their foresight, about their creativity, that are going to make for very good theater pieces. And I think once people get a little perspective, it's a little early. No one really, everyone's dealing with COVID too much to want to go see a play about it necessarily. But there's still a lot of other stuff going on in the environment right now that we need to think about and talk about, especially in terms of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. And those stories have to be right in the forefront as well. So it's as with everything, human beings they never get an opportunity just to deal with one thing at a time, and that's true with us as a society, isn't it? So
it would be too easy to just have one thing to deal with at a time.
Right.
How does Shakespeare and Company plan to address the issue of diversity and inclusion? Have you sat down and met about it? Have you set up a game plan to address it at this point?
Yeah, we've been meeting. We have an inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility committee that meets once every other week, and we've been doing that since October. We're about to release an anti-racism statement that will be forthcoming, And we really have to take a close look about everything that we do and how we approach things and how that be part of the conversation and the dialogue and what it means on every level. And it's not just about doing something performative or talking about it. It really is about action and steps that you can make so that everyone feels comfortable, certainly on our property and amongst our programming and our peers. So that's been an initiative that we've been undergoing since it was part of our strategic plan 3 years ago, and we started this training in 2018. So it's really been an imperative for us.
Now, one of the things that you had to cancel over the course of the pandemic was the tours that you went out into the schools. You do a Northeast tour every year. Do you think that within a year from now, you'll be able to get back into the schools and do all the training programs live as opposed to virtual?
Well, we did just film a group of what are often tour actors doing a production that we'll do for Shakespeare's birthday on April 23rd, Shakespeare's Language and How It Shaped the World. So that already is in the can and being edited, as they say. And we hope to make online material more available to schools. We have a documentary coming out in short order here about our education program. So it's really important that we stay connected. But there's nothing like going into a school and having that one-on-one interaction with the students. So a combination of things is what we are planning.
It sounds great. And where can people find out about all the programs and services of Shakespeare and Company?
Oh, well, Shakespeare.org.
How did you guys get that web address? The Shakespeare heirs didn't get a chance, huh?
No, they didn't. No, not even in London. It was at the beginning of the World Wide Web when when even before dial-up was a thing. And yeah, we just got in really early. The company's been in existence going on 43 years, and we try to stay ahead of things.
So, and even though there are no performances right now that are live, people can still stroll the grounds at Shakespeare and Company.
Oh, I invite them to. Yeah, I mean, we're in the middle of building this new theater. They're moving fast. And yeah, the grounds are open, 32 acres, and we really encourage people to stop by and stroll the grounds. There's still a lot to take in, and there are folks roaming around who are happy to chat with you.
Now, one last question. Is this rumor or fact? Is it true that Shakespeare wrote King Lear during a pandemic?
Yes, that is true. You have to understand, he lived through 3 pandemics. So the probability that he was going to write several of his plays during a pandemic was pretty high. But yeah, he did indeed write. King Lear was one of them. So as people sit there and watch this play, they can actually identify with where Shakespeare was at that level while they're watching.
So it's very possible during this pandemic, somebody is sitting at their laptop or their word processor or something like that, and the next King Lear could show up a few years from now.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, the gauntlet has been thrown. I can see you mounted the challenge for someone to do that.
We've been chatting with Allyn Burrows, who's the artistic director of Shakespeare and Company in Lenox, who's hoping, along with every other theater in the Berkshires, to make the Berkshires alive again in real time, on site, have theater this summer. Allyn, thanks for joining us.
It's great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
We'll have you on again. You've been on once before, and it'll be nice to have you back when the new theaters open outside. And I guess if people want to learn more about that or name it, they go to Shakespeare.org.
That's right, yeah.
You've been watching or listening to Artsbeat Radio and TV here on 89.5 FM WSKB and Westfield Community Programming Channel 15. If you want to catch an earlier episode of Artsbeat, or you want to watch this one again and again, you can find it archived on YouTube at WSKB Community Radio's YouTube page. Peter Coles has been our chief engineer today. We've been broadcasting from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy. I'm Mark Auerbach. We'll see you next Friday at 8 o'clock for another edition of Artsbeat.